Welcome to Best in Faction.
The next generation.
I have no joke.
I'm Tyler.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Lucas.
And today is the day of all days because today is the first day of the TNG 2024 tour. It's not a tour, actually. We're going to stay right here. But we are bringing you Best in Faction, the next generation, in the year of our Lord 2024. And not much has happened just yet. It's January 1st, 2024. If a data slate has come out since then, we don't know about it yet. But we're very excited because things are happening. And today, in order to pass the time, essentially, as we wait for this up-and-coming slate to find out what the game's going to look like next month, as we've come off of our little bit of a holiday hiatus here, we're going to bring back a very fun theoretical exercise that we used to run a lot. It's called Man versus Matchup. We're going to talk about a couple of different theoretical scenarios that you might run into and how you might want to approach them. This used to be something that we really enjoyed as an exercise in tournament preparedness, but it sort of develops an additional dimension in the context of Teams 40K as being able to predict what will happen in a game, not only how you want to approach it, but what will happen as a result of that approach. Is a really, really big deal in trying to provide good matrix information, even if it's a matchup you may not have gotten to play yet. So we're really excited to bring this exercise back and see what we can do with it. But before we get into any of that, I got to check in with my lads today. How we doing, boys? How you doing today, Lucas?
Doing good. Nothing really much has changed since last week, which is fine. And just kind of had a nice new year with Skylar, and looking forward to some more 40K developments in the next month. There's going to be, hopefully this slate changes a couple of things, but I honestly feel like the game's in a really solid spot. So I'm just excited to keep playing because I think the game's really fun right now. Yeah, doing pretty good overall. How are you, Nick?
I'm doing good as well. My winter break is officially over, so I am returned to work at the oldie school, and I am tired. Gone are the days of being able to sleep in and getting back on that schedule, which the day after New Year's going back to work, a little bit rough. So yeah, it's been a good week though. It's been pretty chill. I'm excited for, the new year, 40K, and kind of, making some goals for myself and starting off on the right foot. So yeah. How about you, Tyler? How's it going?
I'm doing well. Yep. I get this. This is my last week off before both teaching and learning click back on next week. So enjoying my downtime while I can. Went to an amusement park today with some family and whatnot. Was absolutely lovely. So I'm in a great mood. Very excited to talk about some 40K here, as I kind of agree with Lucas. The game's in a great spot. Bill asks in the, or Bill Hammond fan asks in the chat here, if there are any rules clarifications or updates due to come out in January. And yes, we are expecting a slate of some sort in late January, probably almost immediately after LVO this year. In theory, according to the GW schedule, I believe it should just be points changes. Or no, it should just be rules changes? Oh my, I'm already confused. There might be rules changes, there might be points changes. We're not entirely sure because GW doesn't stick to their own schedule, even if I could remember what their schedule was. Before we jump into the exercise, I would love to take a quick sec, though, to do a bit of wish listing. Like Lucas said, I think the game is overall in a pretty solid spot right now. What do we want to see happening across both factions we play and factions that are affecting the meta as a whole when we get that slate in a couple of weeks? What do we hope to see changed?
To start off, I would say that I think the September slate, considering the state that the game was in the mid to late summer, which was really rough, I think the September slate did a fantastic job to kind of tamp down on some of the most egregious bullshit, but also lift up the people that were at the bottom of the pack, or at least most of the people that were at the bottom of the pack, to a significant degree. And I feel like if we just emulate that and try to do that again, that is going to make a lot of people really happy, right? There's definitely a couple of things that are a little bit egregious, not as much as over the summer, but like there's some stuff in Eldar and CSM that are just a little bit ridiculous. But some people are calling for nerfs to other factions. I don't think any other faction really needs a change. The factions after that, they're all very counterable. They don't really have much bullshit. There's some stuff they're very good at, but I don't think they deserve nerfs by any stretch of the imagination. So tamp down on some Eldar and CSM stuff, but then also very importantly, make sure that Drukhari, Imperial Knights, as much as I hate to admit it, and maybe something like Custodes, just change a couple of things with them to try to bring them up. In particular, Drukhari, you could make sweeping changes to that faction to try to lift it up. Whereas the other two, I feel like only need a nudge in the upward direction. How do you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I'm more or less right with you there. The more that I think about it, I think this is supposed to be just points. I think it used to be that it was always rules, half the time points, and now it's always points, half the time rules. And I don't think there's any sweeping changes that need to be made. I think that external balance, like you said, let's haircut CSM and Eldar, great. Maybe throw a bone to Dark Eldar, Imperial Knights, great. Maybe even AdMech, as new as their codex is. But I would love to see some internal rebalancings happening instead of focusing on which factions need to get better. Go into a couple of factions and say, hey, let's make some of those units that are not being seen a little bit cheaper, some that are being seen a little bit too much, a little bit more expensive. Not because that faction needs to get better or worse, but just to allow a greater diversity of units in there. Like, we're in that level of good, I think, overall. That let's have some fun. I'm not out here. The house is not on fire at the moment. Is my assessment of the situation, and maybe I'm just so horrified at what 10th used to be, but I'm pretty content right now as well. What do you think, Nick?
Yeah, I mean it's a little weird. I was perusing the stat check data dashboard earlier today, but they kind of reset it with the release of the Kron and AdMech codexes, so there isn't that much data in it right now. So it looks very different from if you go before the release of those codexes, where CSM and Eldar were very high. I do think once the meta adapts to Krons and AdMech, I think Krons are proving themselves to be pretty good. Especially the Canoptech Court is definitely a list that it's you need to have an answer for this, or else you're just going to get kind of walked over slowly. I don't think obviously there should be any changes to any of those factions since they just came out. Give them some time to settle. Don't think they need any points changes. Obviously, Eldar and CSM are very strong. Their damage could probably be tweaked a little bit, especially with CSM's case, just kind of bring it down a little. But I think if it's just going to be points, the most interesting thing they could do is maybe take a look at why are people not playing some of these units, right? Even in CSM, taking some of the units that aren't played, because there's some cool units in there that people aren't playing. Maybe, I don't know, try it out. Maybe, reduce their points a little. I know Orcs, for example, there's some units in there that Lucas would love to play. Reduce some of their points a little. All right. I know we also have a bunch of codexes kind of around the corner, like Custodes and Tau and Orcs. I know we're getting a spring release, which sometimes that tends to be maybe even February or March. So, which right now, sure, that's 2-3 months away, but we're gonna probably start getting leaks and releases. I mean, within this current balance patch, right? So it's why change those factions a ton if they're about to get new rules? Yeah, personally, I think there's one thing, yes, that I was remembering. There's not a lot of broken stuff out there. I think that there's one stratagem though that they definitely need to clarify. It's more of an FAQ thing, the Space Marine Vanguard stratagem, where they're allowed to create that weird donut hole and run inside, and technically they're still a legal charge target, so you're not allowed to redeclare or something like that. I know that that's like a weird kind of one of those things out there that like it stops you from being able to act. Even though like I think every other instance of like unshootable, you're allowed to like redeclare, that sort of thing. So I think that's one small thing, but that's not really a balance thing. That's more like a let's please go back and actually FAQ this codex instead of like releasing one answer and then moving on. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. We got some guys in the comments as well saying similar stuff. I would really, that would be probably my number one thing that I would want to see out of an update right now is a full codification of the Warhammer World Championships FAQ. The Atlanta
That too.
FAQ
Like I guess
is the rule.
But it isn't like officially in the rules. It's like this is an FAQ for our one tournament. But like now we're kind of in this weird state of some people are playing with it, some people are playing without it. Like what's real or not? Like that thing did a really good job of answering a lot of these confusing questions, and it baffles me that some people aren't even playing with it. So like make it official. If you didn't like how some of those things went down at Worlds with that, take them out. Publish an FAQ. Go, here's our official FAQ for this balance window. Cool. Like that'd be great.
Sweet. Okay. So no crazy high hopes here. I don't think there's what we've gestured kind of vaguely at. Oh, Eldar and CSM need to get nerfed. If you have of the pen there, what are you doing to tone those factions down? For context here, I pulled up the stat check dashboard. We're looking at basically the metas since the Codex has started coming out. So Codex Tyranids, Codex Space Marines, Codex Necrons, and AdMech, those three metas collectively, Eldar are the number one faction with a 59% win rate. CSM are number 2 at 58. And then Templars at 57, Votan at 56, not nearly as egregious because the number of games being played there isn't quite as much. Though honestly, the Templars numbers and the CSM numbers look pretty like comparable. Other than is that top fours? Event wins? Yeah, other than event wins. Because event wins goes 27 Eldar, 21 CSM, and then 6 Templars after that. So Eldar and CSM definitely sticking out well above, head and shoulders above the rest of the competition. What do we want to see done to those two factions?
I can start with talking about CSM because I gave this a lot of thought. I played a reasonable amount of CSM. I'd say like 15 or so games, which is definitely not a lot by some people's metrics, but I feel reasonably qualified to talk about this. In my opinion, some of the biggest culprits are a couple of the stratagems are a little bit too good for what you pay for. And there's a couple ways to tamp those down. The first of which is the Nurgle strat, which is just too good on certain units that are inside of Nurgle rhinos. So the easiest fix here is they already have the rule where you have to attach a mark character to a mark unit. They have to have the same mark. I think like 9th edition, right? You can't like mix sub-factions within your attachment, that kind of thing. You also can't mix the mark. You shouldn't be able to mix the marks within transports. Mark lock the transports. That would, I think, tone down the Nurgle strat to an acceptable level. It's still an amazing strat like we see with the Canoptek Court. Like it's still very applicable, but we don't need it to have massive synergy and let things be combined in ways that they shouldn't be combined. The other thing is the undivided strat. That stratagem is just way too good for 1 CP. Some people are saying it's only good because you can make it free. No, it's ridiculous for 1 command point. Every time we've seen a unit be too good in the CSM in the last 6-7 months, it's been predominantly because the undivided strat is just way too good. Cursed Cultists are ridiculous with the stratagem. Chosen are ridiculous with the stratagem. Forge Fiends are ridiculous with the stratagem. Obliterators are ridiculous with the stratagem. Abaddon with Terminators are ridiculous with the stratagem. Either make it 2 CP or make it 1 CP, reroll hits, or reroll wounds. Choose when you activate. One of those two would be an excellent nerf. And obviously, like Tyler said, there's a chance that they're only trying to do points here, which I think limiting ourselves based on, because I mean, plainly what the CSM's rules are too good here, not their points necessarily. I think the rules are the most egregious part, which is why I would rather attack those than attack points. But if you're going to attack points, I think it's the lamer fix. You go for Chosen, In particular, the Chosen aren't even that insane. It's the Lord that they're with that's ridiculous. You bump Chosen a little bit, you bump the Lord a lot. That guy should be way more than 75 points. You bump Cursed Cultists a little bit, and I honestly think the faction is fine. But I would attack the rules personally.
Do you think that the Undivided? Well, yeah, you were suggesting CP bump, but do you think that like there might be a merit to changing the category as well, or no?
No, I think using it for free is fine, which is why I personally prefer the reroll hits or reroll wounds change rather than making it 2 CP.
Gotcha.
I think changing it to reroll hits or reroll wounds and changing the way Nurgle rhinos interact with Undivided Chosen inside, even if you don't attack points, would bring down the specific Chosen package to within the realm of reasonable. And then maybe you can increase some points on things like Accursed Cultists, but
that's a good change. Yeah, because like you have the choice now of like, do you want to deliver your Chosen safely but like hit way less hard, or do you want to hit someone super hard but like your rhino's now killable?
That's the point of the mark system. Is it's supposed to make you make tough choices. There shouldn't be.
You see that in the Forge Fiends, right? Like the Forge Fiend that hits super hard has to be strat reserved, whereas the Forge Fiend that hits still well can wander around the table because that's Mark and Nurgle, but doesn't hit as crazy as the Undivided one.
I think if you hit the
so yeah, that'd be good changes. Unfortunately, if they decide to go with just points, we will not see that.
Yeah, I think if you mark lock rhinos, I don't think you need to change Profane Zeal at that point. I think you mark lock rhinos and you hit them with those little bit of points, and that's probably hard enough. Profane Zeal is obviously a crazy stratagem, but like, I don't think that a Profane Zealed Forge Fiend is that absurd of a thing, and people aren't taking Obliterators, generally speaking, right now. And yeah, I think that the moment that you let Chosen get shot at, that unit stops being crazy. But I mean, they're the best faction. They might be the best faction in the game, so maybe you got to hit them harder than that. But that's the.
I just don't want to see.
Big thing.
Yeah, Mark Lock is the biggest thing. I just don't want to see slamming Chosen with point hikes to the point they're untakeable. There's so many cool Chosen packages that don't feel insane as long as they're not in a Nurgle Rhino, right? Like I want to see Khorne Chosen with the Khorne Lord with the Relic. That would be so sick. I want to see Undivided Chosen with the Undivided Lord Relic. Like that would be sick. I don't want them to hide in the stupid Nurgle box.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, should we talk about Eldar quickly?
Yeah, for sure.
Remove Twin Link from the Night Spinner weapon. I mean, they're not going to make data sheet changes, but
I cannot imagine trying to fix Eldar with points right now.
Yeah, they are very thin on the ground. I would not try to fix with points. It's like, what rules can we change? The obvious one is alter Phantasm in some kind of way, shape, or form.
Remove it from the game.
Eldar become T2. I'm down.
All of them. Most
play against Death Guard to make you T1.
Oh man.
Ugh.
You can.
Oh, we had a good change for the Way Leaper. The fact that he gives you like a guaranteed CP is super silly.
Oh like, yeah, make it like a lot of the other CP games in the game where it's like a 3-up or something or a 4-up.
Yeah, like the fact that you're able, like Phantasm is very good, but the fact that you're able to like plan around, I'll always have 2 CP on my turn, right? So I can always Phantasm like in their turn and recharge in my turn, yada yada. Like make it have some element of risk, right? Like make it a 3-up, make it a 4-up. I think that'd be interesting.
That's something for sure.
So like that guy's taken in every list. Like his points are going up for sure. So that's another thing. Make him cost a little more points. Like you can hit him in points, right? Especially if you're gonna keep the CP as automatic, you know. Like if you're not gonna hit the rules, right? Like what is enabling this constant use of good stratagems and you know.
You could definitely also hike Phantasm, because it's still 1 right now, right? It's just that they locked it to infantry. You
Yep.
could hike that to 2 pretty comfortably, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't change that and the Autarch gain a CP, but
No, absolutely not both of them. That'd be a little
one
bit
of those two definitely is a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like I mean, like you said, it's kind of ridiculous to consider that they might be changing the points of this faction, which is, yeah, like I don't even know what they would. What if they were to pick like 2 or 3 units to hike the points of? What do you guys think they would pick?
I think
Like,
Whale Leaper, Night
Night
Spinners,
Spinner?
and Warp Spiders.
Which, man, Warp Spiders are like 25 points a model for a 1 wound T3.
This is what I see people like taking in a bunch of lists, right?
I know, but like, how much more expensive can we make this damn unit?
I mean, I think that's what GW is asking as well.
Yeah.
They're like, when do people stop spamming these and stop winning 59% of their games? And stop winning like all the tournaments, you know?
That's a Ninja suggests Phantasm should become like other reactive move strats.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that would actually be pretty reasonable.
It could be, yeah. I remember when I first played against that.
Strats are already very good.
Yeah. At the start of the edition, I was like, oh, wait, you can't reactive move. I have to end with a 9 of you. And they were like, no, dude, I just get to do it at the end of your turn.
It's not a reactive move, dude. It's a proactive move. It's the Wraith Knight is closer to you than you thought it was move. That was so dumb. Oh my god.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's
that
some
would
stuff
remove
that I
a lot
like.
of the... Go ahead.
Like, I know we've seen the Avatar Kane in a lot more lists, but like, I like that guy. I don't think that he's a problem with the faction.
Oh yeah, please don't nerf Kane. That guy's so cool.
So, like, he's a very counterable giant monster that waddles around. You know?
You can play around him, but he does something super unique. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
He's cool.
Yeah.
What if they introduced a game-wide max of 6 characters per army?
That could hurt Eldar a little bit.
What would that?
It is kind of funny that like
10.
1,000 points of their army is characters.
Death Guard molding over here, dude.
Bummer.
This is a tiny thing, but I don't know if it's a tiny thing, but reduce the range on the stupid Farseer ability. You guys know how big that ability is? 12. The flip of fate die to a 6 is 12-inch range. Are you kidding me?
That ability should be 3-inch range.
3 or 6? 6 at most. 12? Are you kidding me? This guy can be cleansing, holding an objective in the midboard. He's like, yo, Night Spinner, way over there. Do a devastating wound. Also, don't let them re-roll into a devastating wound. Or don't let them re-roll into using a fate dice. That's stupid.
Oh, yeah. That's one of the only parts of the world's FAQ that can die in a fire. Utter nonsense.
Yeah, that's dumb.
Dice fixing is strong enough. It had a very, very reasonable check on its power, and they just took it away. I don't understand why. All right, cool. So there's some ideas for the slate. When we're not banging down the door with what we think are the most obvious fixes, that probably means that they're not in an easy position. So I'm curious to see what they come up with, honestly. I think we can kind of agree they did a pretty darn good job in September. So I'm excited to see what they come up with here, and I'm going to try to withhold some judgment. I think we were all pretty harsh in September, and Eldar CSM, the best factions, but the meta is not the disaster that I think some of us were predicting it was going to be after reading those rules. So fingers crossed that things continue to go well. Shall we jump into our main topic for tonight?
Yes, sir. Hit it.
Sweet. You want to walk us through how these work, Lucas? Because you took the lead here.
Yeah. So for those, this is a segment that we've had on the show in the past, but it's been probably a good half a year at least since we've done it. I don't think we've done it in the fall or late summer at all. So for those who are unfamiliar, this is Man versus Matchup. It's our show segment where we basically just talk through a theoretical matchup on a theoretical mission, basically as though you walked up to the table at a tournament and this is the opponent and map and deployment type and mission that you're playing. And we just kind of have a roundtable discussion about how we would approach the game from each of our perspectives. So in particular, we'll go through each one of us. I'll say, yo, Tyler, you're playing your GSC and your matchup this round is blank and you're playing on blank. and we're doing this terrain. So the way this is going to work tonight is each of us will have one matchup on GW terrain, playing like a GW-esque mission or a Pacific Northwest type of GW mission. And then we'll also do a round on WTC terrain, playing a mission from the WTC, and we can kind of talk through the differences there and how we'd approach the game differently, coming from a singles as opposed to a team's perspective. So let's just get right into it.
Sweet. Who's up first?
It's you, buddy.
Oh, shit. I did not know this.
Bummer, dude. You're playing against your other faction, dude. Your main, the Tau.
Get out of here.
All right. So our first matchup for the evening is Tyler's GSC versus Tau Empire. So Tyler, give us the 15-second rundown on what your GSC list is these days.
Yeah, no problem. It's got 3 Primuses, a Biophagus with Alien Cunning, 2 squads of 20 Neophytes, 2 squads of 10 Acolytes, a Ridge Runner with a Mortar and a Survey Augur, 10 Aberrants, 30 Catechins with 2 Flamers each, 10 Cadians, and 4 Taroks. That's my GSC at the moment. For more on that, check out some other episodes where we talk about it. I know we talk about it a lot more in the LVO episode, so I'm taking to Vegas in a couple weeks. And what am I up against here, Lucas?
So you're playing against Tau. Think very archetypal Tau, standard stuff, like 6 to 9 Crisis, between 3 and 5 Devilfish full of Breachers, maybe some Broadsides, a bunch of Tetras, and then a bunch of scoring shit all over the place, Piranhas and Crude Hounds and stuff.
Cool. And what is the mission?
You're playing on Take and Hold and Hidden Supplies. So this is a mission that a lot of PNW TOs have been favoring recently, especially at Chases and Birds events. And so there's going to be 6 objectives. You're playing on Sweeping Engagement, and you're playing on GW Terrain Layout number 1. So this is what we call the Thunderdome, because there's that kind of big box in the middle with very, very few shooting angles into that box.
Okay. I haven't played this deployment with Hidden Supplies on the Thunderdome before. How do the objectives lay out relative to the terrain?
So the 2 that get split off in the middle move, but they stay basically within the Thunderdome, to the point where if you're on the objective, you're basically getting seen from any point inside the Thunderdome.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the ones on the edges are like maybe 20 to 30% of the objective is behind that very corner ruin that's at an angle.
Gotcha.
So there's a little place to hide in there, but then as soon as you move into the inside objectives in the Thunderdome, you're getting shot from basically wherever.
Okay. Ooh, good combo. Yeah, because my thought into Tau generally is that I want my Aberrants to take up a centralized position and just not go anywhere and never declare a charge and just sit on a center objective and say, what are you going to do about it? Because without getting a full crisis break activation to them, there's literally nothing they can do about it. Tau don't have, like, Breachers don't do nearly enough damage to Aberrants. And getting them there is awkward. But in this situation, the only safe-ish objectives are on the corners, which makes things a lot more complicated. So I think, yeah. And simultaneously, Tau are not going to have a really easy time holding down their own position in the center there. Is there a spot that I can be behind that sort of middle 4x6 to deploy a teleport homer from?
No, you have to step into the Thunderdome to shoot homers.
Sounds good. And can I stage in that though? Is this like a weird bird border? There's a statue there, or can I have a ruin to hide something in?
Let's say there's a ruin there.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. So in that case, I'm probably still using my Aberrants in a centralized position because I want to really punish the Tau coming into the Thunderdome. And then I'm going to be using my transports with the Taroks full of Catechins there to try to send guys off to do to go contest or take that primary over and over and over again to force commitments from the Tau that allow me to counter strike with the aberrants and whatnot. I'm going to have a really hard time holding down a lot of primary in this game, given sort of the state of affairs. I need to really bully down the Tau and get rid of that crisis unit. What's really nice is that the Bomba Squads and honestly the Neophytes can just rip that thing apart pretty comfortably if they actually get a beat on it. So I can threaten it in a lot of different ways. So we're going to basically throw... I don't need to do anything crazy about my home field because like he doesn't have any indirect or anything that's actually that fast. I mean, sorry, Tower looked very fast, but like he's not threatening my home field objective in a way that I care about. So the mortar car is going to hold down the bottom there. I'm going to throw my Taroks full of Cadians up and left to try to sticky that objective as quickly as possible. Because I think that, or maybe down and right, honestly, because it's kind of a weird place for him to get to, and he can't be on there safely. Yeah, I think we probably send the Taroks full of Cadians to the bottom right. Try to get that stickied sooner rather than later, while the aberrants are postured a little bit further to the left, and just apply really hard pressure. Try to put Taroks on all 4 midfield objectives, put aberrants up front, and say, what are you going to do about it right now? And try to get the Tau player to solve a lot of problems at once, because Tau really just have that one giant hammer unit swinging around, and not so much elsewhere. Is this the same as the Charity Hammer loss? It straight up might be. I don't think this was the terrain, but it was.
I don't know if you guys played on Hidden Supplies, and obviously your list has changed quite a bit.
Yeah, very different list is the big thing. The Taroks are huge into Tau.
Yeah, my thinking is the Taroks kind of do what they did in our game on TTS the other day, which is they require a lot of commitment to, break the GSC off of the early primary, which is usually their weakness, right? You can kind of bully them early. The Taroks say, hey, I'm actually going to get a bunch of points unless you answer me. And then in response, the Tau have to try to commit some stuff, and then the GSC start dropping all over them and shooting them in the face. And you actually have a great answer to the crisis unit, because any of your drop squads can, I don't know about kill the unit, but severely cripple it, right? And I guess they're...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was indeed sweeping engagement. I have heard that it was chosen battlefield. I don't know if that was correct. Anyway. Sorry, continue.
How scary is the Overwatch from that crisis unit? Because usually, I mean, you're always dropping on... You're basically always dropping on turn 2, right? I guess if he goes first, you could drop on bottom of 1. Mm-hmm. But with hitting on with 6's explode on Overwatch, I'm sure that Sid unit just kind of like deletes 10 acolytes.
If the whole unit gets a shoot, absolutely. Yeah, it's definitely a situation where I need to be cutting in a pretty intense angle. Something else that I'll often do with a Sib unit though is try to bait out that Overwatch with a small Bomba squad before hitting it actually hard with a Neophyte squad, or vice versa. Because, yeah, I'm going to lose 10 acolytes to the Crisis unit. That's a bummer. And if they don't Overwatch me, I'm going to wreak havoc on them. Whereas the Neophytes can potentially cut a much more intense angle because they've got a little more range to not get Overwatch quite as hard. The Thunderdome makes Overwatching me really difficult. Because if the Crisis haven't committed to the middle yet, they're not a problem yet. And if they have committed to the middle, there's a ton of these little awkward angles to peek in to see just a little bit. And a single Crisis suit shooting at me, even the commander, doesn't pick up enough bombas for me to care. But yeah, so it's interesting. Holding space is awkward. The $1 million question in my mind is, what are we doing secondary-wise here? Tau in general, I bring it down homers. And with all the Taroks and whatnot, homers is even more doable than usual. And with it being sweeping engagement, home field homers is even more doable than usual. So it seems really, really, really good. And yet, I would really like some command points in a matchup where I want to throw something really hard, threatening on turn 1 potentially. So it's
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Is the CP versus guaranteed points is a little bit of an actual trade-off. I was thinking probably homers would bring it down is better, just because it's kind of hard to beat.
So many points,
like 37 points.
Yeah.
Like, because tactical, I don't see being more than between like a 28 and a 32. Let's say average of 30. So would you rather have 1 or 2 more CP in the mid game, or would you rather have 7 more victory points? I think 7 more victory points is probably better.
I think I can probably this army is so good at tactical that I'm not entirely convinced of that. But yeah, I think it's probably better. And it also forces the Tau player to try to behave in ways that are erratic, to try to deal with that. Like, hopefully they're not trying to stop bring it down because they know what they're doing, and that's not a thing that you can do as a Tau player. But forcing the commitment into the center because, oh man, he's gonna homer their next turn, or oh man, he's gonna homer in my DZ next turn, just makes those activations even harder to come by. You know, oh, there's a random Tarax that's close to my DZ. Cool, whatever, I don't care. Oh no, that's 4 points on homers next turn. Can force them pretty hard. So yeah, I think I go for the fixed here, and I really, really hope I'm going second. Oh man, this is a hard mission to win on going first, and Tower a hard army to beat going first, because they have just so much nonsense. The Tarax will help, particularly because Tower very vulnerable to getting bumper card. Like, obviously they can shoot in and out of combat, but on a GW table like the Thunderdome, like, their line of sight is going to be so limited that just getting everyone into combat is going to make things a whole lot easier. So we'll see how it can go. I would say I'm predicting this as a small win, like purple with upside in terms of our matrix is here. If I don't do something stupid, I think this is a fundamentally favored matchup, but it's just not something that can be smashing. So I'm going to need to be on my A game here if I'm going to be able to handle Tau, especially if I have to go first. That could get pretty dicey.
Yeah, it seems like you kind of win the stalemate staring contest, but it's hard to push because pushing into town means you get shot to hell. So,
but yeah, very cool. I'm excited. I want to play this. This looks like a really good time.
Tower are fun to play into. I feel like they're in a good spot right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Cool. Should we go to the next one?
Sweet, let's do it, dude.
Nick, you're playing against yourself.
Oh, I love playing with myself.
Nice.
Against myself, I mean.
Amazing. All right, you're playing Votan against Canoptic Court Necrons. The scenario is you're playing Take and Hold. So hold 1, hold 2, hold 3, Chilling Rain, and you're playing on Table Quarters. And you're playing your give us the 15 to 20 second rundown on your Votan list lately.
Yeah, I'm kind of back and forth again. Just, on is it 6 Sags and 10 Hearthguard or 5 Sags and 20 Hearthguard? I'm kind of the opinion for singles. 5 Sags, 20 Hearthguard is where it's at, just because, like, even though the Hearthguard have the potential to whiff, they're at least one of the best things you have to do with pressure, which is kind of consistently one of the weaker matchups for Votan. Is just someone taking their army and going blah, because 6 Sags sometimes just go, oops, we didn't roll well enough. So yeah, that's if I was going to a tournament tomorrow, I'd play 5 Sags, 20 Hearthguard, like 2 punch squads with Uthar. I think there's like 6 spikes in there. I haven't quite figured out the points of how many Zerkers, so I would love to put 2 squads of Zerkers in there. So yeah, it might end up being like 10 Hearthguard and 5 Hearthguard and 10 Zerkers, just to like have a little bit of punch and shoot.
Nice. Cool. And let's say you're playing against I'm just going to use Enrique's list because I don't know how the points usually stack up for Necrons. So like 18 Wraiths, 2 Catan, 20 Immortals, and a little bit of trash.
20 Immortals. Are they both the like fully kitted out Immortals probably? Like
yeah, double Plasmancers, double Teleporty Lord. Yeah.
What Catan? Nightbringer, and what's the other one?
Transcendent.
Yeah, because the Void Dragon. The Void Dragon offers a very strange, unique problem just because of how many vehicles I have.
Yeah, so. I feel you there, brother.
So yeah, I do think the Transcendent is more common in the wider meta, but I do think the Void Dragon is the sicker choice, and you'll probably see it more around here because the few people that did play Necrons always ran a Void Dragon. At least everyone I ran one, 2 summers ago? Yeah, 2022, and then I started seeing a bunch pop up around here. So I know they're out there. Yeah, I mean, obviously, so this is a tough matchup. I've played both sides of this. I haven't played Votan into Krons or Krons into Votan, but I played both of these armies. The Wraiths are a very strange and unique problem. Just because like the pressure that they put out is very high, but the damage that they put out is very low. Like, I don't know if 6 Wraiths reliably kill a Sagittar if it pops Void Armor, because now I have 3-up saves and it's wounding on 5s.
They definitely do that.
Yeah. So this is a weird matchup where I think we like both want to bump each other, because like they want to bump my cars, but my cars want to bump their Wraiths. The advantage they have is obviously table quarters, right? Like they're very close to me. And their goal as the Necrons is to keep me off of primary as long as possible. I think that's how they win this. I don't really give up anything, so they're probably just taking tactical and using their pressure and their transcendent and their trash to run around and score secondaries while 18 raids are holding me in my DZ. They're also going to have a squad that's infiltrating, which is going to be a big bummer. So first off, I'd like to deploy in such a way that, like, if I do go second, I probably like maybe sacrifice a Sagittar or sacrifice like a squad of bikes with a scout move to like try to block those Wraiths like from ending up in an annoying place after their charge, the infiltrating squad, that is. Because Wraiths move 10 without access to advance and charge. They can go through walls, but like there's definitely a lot of prediction of with your movement 10, this is where you can end, sort of thing. The other thing too is probably like, say if I'm in the bottom left, trying to attack that top left objective as quickly as possible, because that's my closest objective, and just probably like maybe trying to put some pressure in the bottom right, but seeing how they like commit in their deployment. They have a lot less drops than me, depending on trash. So like I can kind of see where their Wraiths are balled up and like deploy accordingly. And I also have like my whole army gets a scout move, so I can redeploy. Say I've got 10 Hearthguard and 5 Hearthguard in the sky. That's also 2 units of deep striking that can come down in like very good locations. And the great thing about this army is it is a perfect army for judgment tokens. You judgment all 3 of the Wraith squads and probably the Nightbringer. And or maybe like if you go first, you judgment something that they've like infiltrated, like a squad of flayed ones or something, and you kill it and get 3 CP. Your choice if you want the CP or if you want to beat up the Nightbringer. The thing that's really nice is a lot of stuff that I shoot is just going to be like the bikes and the Hearthguard are like volume of shots into the Nightbringer, which is pretty good. Which is really, really good when they're winning on like 5s. All he's got is a 4-up save.
Yeah, I was thinking the Volkite squad in particular, 10 Volkite dudes. I don't know if it kills the Catan, but it probably gets pretty close.
Probably puts a bunch of damage onto it, yeah.
Just with the volume. So, yeah.
There's also some weird stuff where like the Transcendent especially, and even the Nightbringer, like you could just walk Uthar's squad into melee with them, and like you have a bunch of 5-up and 4-up invulns, and when Uthar is all alone, he just reduces all damage to 1. Like he's perfect at just sitting there in combat with the Nightbringer. Which obviously is not that good if the Nightbringer's already made it to an objective, but if he's sitting somewhere, if you can hold him off for a turn because he has no access to fall back and doing anything, even just locking him down for one of their turns is super good, because like that Catan takes like 2 turns to get anywhere important, and if like on its turn where it wants to go somewhere important, you're keeping it there. Very good. So I think a lot of this is just trying to break out of the pressure as quickly as possible, trying to set up a base on an objective and making sure that they're not putting me on like 5s while they're getting 15s.
What would you take your secondaries wise? Because usually a lot of folks are kind of espousing assassinate homers into Necrons, but I don't know if you're going to have the sheer damage to cut into those characters. But then again, like if you do manage to crack an immortal squad, like that is 8 points just straight up. Would you go with fixed here, or do you think tactical is the way?
I'd try both. I mean, if this was my first time playing it, I think I would probably err towards tactical, just because I'd expect them to try to pressure me, and I want as many activations as possible to do damage. Having to like plan around an activation every turn for homers is annoying. Also, it puts something in the midfield that lets the Catan charge, or lets the Wraiths charge, and like Slingshot, which is pretty annoying. Like if like they can charge it and roll a high charge and they get to tag more stuff, that's kind of annoying. Like obviously you can play around that. I could definitely see Homer's assassinate working. Homer's in their DZ is going to be hard though. One of the big things that I love about homers is on turn 3 onwards. Usually there's not enough stuff in their backfield, and Bike Squad just gets to show up and start getting 4 points every turn. But on like corners, it's a very small deployment. But again, this is also a list that's very light on the ground, so maybe I could sneak on in there. So I think if I showed up on this with 0 reps, I'd just say tactical, just because I'm like, I feel like this is safer. I feel like you're just going to run your army at me. We're going to collide. And if I like beat the pressure, then I probably like do pretty well. But I would definitely, if we were playing a practice game of this, I would try Fix and see how that goes. Because I do think that there's definitely like a lot more points in Fix. Because sometimes like if I go first and I draw capture behind, it's going to be like, well, bummer, 0 points this turn, you know? Or again, right, my whole reasoning behind taking tactical is, you know, I don't have to do the homers every turn. What if I keep drawing action secondaries? Bummer, you know? So.
Do you want to like try to concentrate the area of engagement, or do you want to try to fight the Necrons all over the place? Like, I guess my question is, do you want to fight over 1, 2, or 3 midfield objectives?
Definitely 1 or 2. I don't think I can afford to fight over 3, because I think where I'm taking
probably
out
just
the
let them have their
Raiders-
natural expansion right in the bottom right.
I think I just have to let them have that, unfortunately. Like, if they put a squad of raids over there, like, and my Hearthguard are off the table, there's not a lot that I have on the board turn 1 that can, like, one-shot a squad of raids, unless they get, like, really close to my Zerkers. Then, like, combined firepower and melee, I can take them out. But it's going to be kind of difficult for me to, like, probably shift my whole army over there, I feel like.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is, like, this midfield ruin here is a really nice place to park Sags behind, so that, like, when I go to that top left objective, like, assuming I'm in the bottom left, right? When I go to that top left objective, if they, like, try to, like, send something on there, I can countercharge from the Sagittars behind the wall. And it seems like a little more annoying to do that from the ruin that's heading towards their safe objective in the bottom right, or the midfield.
Definitely. So. It's a lot further away.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you think that you have much counterplay with Votann into the Matrix? Like, are there ways that you can attack that more directly? I know I've been talking to a lot of different people about what can be done about this, and I haven't thought about how Votann can interface with it.
I, unfortunately, don't think there's a ton. Like, yeah, you have sticky objectives from Hearthkin, but they have to, like, live for a turn. Like, you could do something where you, like, go first, blast a Sagittar onto an objective, and, like, disembark the guys and stand there. But, like, I think that they're just going to be able to walk out and kill 5 Hearthkin very easily. So, because, like, all of these objectives are in the open, yeah. There's, like, nowhere you're holding them from behind the wall or anything, right? On this deployment type.
They are all out in the open, yes.
Yeah. Like, if I could have Hearthkin hiding behind a wall, that'd be great, because I could make it so raids can't reach me and immortals can't shoot me, and I could sticky it, because I know sticky is something weird where it doesn't go away till like the end of the turn or something like that, which can mess with the Matrix. Other than that, I think it's really just like I think they're gonna have it up if they want to have it, right? Because like, what am I gonna deploy onto a midfield objective, like a Sagittar, which is OC3, and then they're gonna walk in with like OC14 wraiths, you know, or 13, like. And then all they have to do is hold it at the end of a phase or start of a phase, right? And then they activate the Matrix for the rest of the turn.
Yep.
So
you can do it like on your turn. If you're charging them to try to tie them up, you can definitely deny their full rules in that fight phase. But it's hard to do it in their fight phase. Because OC13, just like off the top of my head, that's a Sagittar and 5 dudes. Like, if you really need to tie them down for a given turn, you can just like blast a Sag out there and deny it.
I definitely think there's some good stuff though where I could like blast a Sag out, dump some Hearthkin onto an objective after it moves, maybe kill some wraiths, right? Pass to them in the Matrix. Now they have the decision of like, maybe they don't have the Matrix in their shooting phase, right? So now their immortals aren't going to have full hit rerolls, and they have to decide, do I waste? Because like, if they only have 2 mortal squads, right, that's like their only 2 shooting activations. So do they do it to like clear the Hearthkin off the midfield, right? Because the big thing here is the mortals are going to destroy my Hearthguard when they show up. So on the turn that my Hearthguard drop down, if there's anything I can do to like try to like make it as annoying as possible for them to activate shooting phase hit rerolls, I think that's worth it. And I think that I can definitely do that.
Yeah. I wonder also if like with your I assume you're keeping all your Hearthguard off the board in this matchup?
I think so. I don't think
Yeah.
there's like maybe you could start a 5-man on the board, but
Mm-hmm.
I think the 10-man
But
wants
yeah,
to start off the board.
totally. I think the threat of the sticky play that you can throw out there definitely has the potential to, you line up the firing lanes right, and you can force an immortal commitment for that, because the Wraith are not going to do a very good job of it.
Yeah.
And if you can use that to your advantage, the knowledge of, hey, if you don't deal with this stickies, and that's a really big problem for you, now you have reason to actually draw the immortals out to get to hit them with the Hearthguard before they get to hit the Hearthguard in the first place.
That's a
Exactly.
good point.
So yeah, sticky. Yeah, definitely explain to your opponent how that works on the front end, so that you can actually take advantage of how they'd want to play into it
Yeah.
once they know.
The thing is, they only need to hold more for the Matrix, so there's going to be a lot of fighting over the midfield objective here to take control of the
Totally.
Matrix back and forth.
But yeah, in my mind, your best case is like you sticky the top left and you have 10 Hearthguard in the center, and you're like, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, very cool, sweet. How do you project this game going?
I think it is relatively vote-in unfavored, especially with the close deployment. Like if it's with Search and Destroy, if they go first, I think it's like a little tough to claw back this primary. Like especially like my first time playing it, I'd probably predict like a slight loss. But so maybe after a few more times, I figure out like some of the nuances. And if I go first, I definitely predict a little bit closer to a tie, just because I'm able to like establish the board presence a bit more. I'm able to maybe, I mean, I get a whole activation where I get to fly Sags up and just unload on Wraiths, and then I get to charge them with Zerkers. You know, I also have the opportunity to shoot the mole launchers at them and slow them down. So
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
For sure. Cool. So we take a look at your matchup, Lucas.
Let's do it. My keyboard is broken. There we go. I'm playing the orcs. I'm playing the green beans, baby. And I'm playing against Vanguard Space Marines. So basically just picture John Lennon's list from the WCW, right? We got Marnius Calgar. We got the Aggressor Bomb. We got some Centurions. We got like 15-ish Inceptors, some Scouts, some random trash. And then we're playing on is Sites of Power Scrambler Fields. So we're playing on everyone's favorite Hammer and Anvil mission. And we're playing on Layout 4, which is the one with the little L kind of facing away from the opponent in the midfield. So I think that this is a pretty interesting matchup for a couple of reasons. I didn't play into Lennon's list when I went to the RTT 2 weeks ago, but I did play against Vanguard. And they pose a couple of very unique problems. I'll just very quickly take you through what I'm playing for orcs these days. It's usually like 3 to 4 trucks filled with some mix of knobs and beast snagga boys, or boys if I'm just feeling cheap. 2 to 3 squads of Gretchen, 1 to 2 squads of Storm Boys, 3 squads of 3 pigs, Gaskell Thraka joined to 2 or 3 Mega Knobs, Mozrog, and then usually at that point you have very few points left, but you can just flavor with whatever a couple enhancements you have left. So there's a couple things that make this really challenging for the orcs just off the rip. The first is the mission. Sites of Power is really tough because Vanguard have a fair number of characters, and a lot of them start in the midboard already. They have the Combi Weapon Lieutenant, who has a Scamper Away mechanic, who starts Infiltrated. And then they also have the Aggressor Brick with Calgar, which has 2 characters in it, which also starts Infiltrated. So they're going to have a lot of advanced position on the midboard objectives. Scrambler Field says they can't start on those, but by the time they score primary in turn 2, they will have the opportunity to walk onto those objectives. So Scrambler Fields doesn't actually do anything to limit the vices of Sites of Power here. So I'm off to a bit of a primary deficit, or like the primary situation is a little bit rough, which is usually one of Orc's strengths. But we do have some stuff going for us. Vanguard really don't have much in the way of ability to kill like massive amounts of the Orc army in one turn, and that's for a couple of essential reasons. Like the first thing I look at a list, the first thing I do when I look at a Space Marine list is I try to assess how oath reliant is it. And while the Centurions are not Oath reliant because they can get +1 ballistic skill and they natively have reroll once to hit, regardless of whether or not I'm on an objective, everything else in the Vanguard list, the Aggressors and the Inceptors, I'm forgetting a key unit. I don't think so. All of those units really, really like shooting the Oath target and get all of a sudden very sketchy when they're not shooting the Oath target because they're just hitting on 3s and hoping for the best. So this offers a lot of counterplay because really what you want to do in that kind of scenario is don't let them get value out of the Oath of Moment. Try to get shot as little as possible on like turn 1 or 2, and then on turn 3, once you see an opportunity, even if it means you're not going to charge them a whole bunch, try shoving your army as far forward as possible. So for this game, I would play defensively in the early game, and then once turn 3 or 4 rolls around, maybe I see an opening, something like that, except the fact that he's going to use the runaway stratagem to good effect and probably deny the most important charge, but just put my whole army in his face. They'll probably kill half of it, and then maybe from that point onward, I can kind of squeak out a narrow win. That runaway strat is probably is matchup defining here because orcs only charge, right? They don't have any shooting at all. So the Vanguard player will always be able to pick the best spot to run away and get guaranteed value. But again, there's so many good strats for Vanguard, right? There's Return to the Shadows, there's Runaway, there's Armor of Contempt. Trying to think of other ones, but really he wants to be spamming at all of
ballistic skill outside of 12.
Yes, yeah, Strike from the Shadows. All of those kind of want to be used every turn as soon as the combat starts rolling. And if you can even just use 1 or 2 charges in the early game where they have to use extra CP to stay alive, all of a sudden means they might only have like 2 or 3, maybe 4 CP on their go turn, and then you can kind of swamp them and they don't have all the resources they need. So that's kind of the general approach I would take to this game. In terms of cards, I mean, Vanguard don't really give up Bring It. They don't have any Bring It Down at all. For characters, they've got the Gravis Apothecary, Calgar. They've got the Lieutenant, and they've got the Calidus. I don't think it's worth taking Assassinate here. I'd probably just go with cards. And I can probably expect that Vanguard are going to go with cards as well, just because they... Oh, no, they don't actually like the CP, because Calgar gives them an extra one. Not that it really matters what the Vanguard take anyway. But yeah, that's how I'm kind of projecting this. I think it's a rough one for orcs, but depending on how the go turn goes, I think it can definitely be flipped on its head. I can expect to kind of get off to an early deficit because of the primary they're going to get with their characters in the midfields. But hopefully in the later game, I can like overwhelm them in a big surge. And because they don't have any fallback and shoot or fallback and charge, all it really takes is 1 or 2 key interactions where I tag a unit or I get within 3 of the Centurions and all of a sudden they're, they can't pick up, put down the following turn. And the game can really flip on its head. So that's kind of what the opportunities I'm looking for when I'm in a sketchier matchup like this.
Makes sense. What are you starting in reserves in this matchup? Hammer and Anvil definitely makes it pretty hard for easy to screen but hard to hide in the center of the board there. And Vanguard are pretty light on the ground in general. What are your reserve considerations looking like?
Yeah, so like you said, Hammer and Anvil's pretty unique. It's going to be hard to get into his backfield because there's just not a lot of space back there. It's going to be very easy to screen with things like Scouts and the Calidus. But that also works in my favor because my backfield's going to be easy to screen, and I'm going to need to screen that for the entirety of the game. My 20 Gretchen can hold my backfield ad infinitum, which is going to be great to prevent things from getting back there, other than Inceptors, but they can just do whatever they want to, whenever they want to. So in terms of what I'm putting in the sky initially, I'd probably put... I want my Gretchen to screen. I'd probably put 1 or 2 squads of pigs and then 5 Stormboys and Deep Strike. Just the 5 Stormboys to keep him honest, because I want to be able to try to get a card back there if I draw it, and that'll force him to screen. And then the pigs, because randomly, if the Vanguard are very good at applying shooting in their movement phase, right? They get to drop at 3 inches. They get to re-Deep Strike their Centurions every turn. They get to advance and shoot their aggressors. but they're not very good at responding to something like a rapid ingress because all their shooting is like 18 inches, or it's these Centurions that kind of deploy in a brick in one spot. I can always rapid ingress something like pigs in a spot where they can't quite see, and all of a sudden those pigs are like going for a charge on some scouts where I'm like, it's not the WOG turn, but I'll probably still kill your scouts. Do you really want to use the runaway strat here when I still have a 7-inch charge? And that gets to pick up an asset for free, for really cheap, and gets me a secondary card or something like that. So I think putting the pigs in outflank here is going to be a big key to success because of the threat of that rapid ingress.
Yeah, I think this particular the layout 3 especially helps you with that. That 4x6 can be such an annoying thing to try to see around when an ingress is threatened, and it's a hard thing to set up for. And the moment you set up for it, then suddenly the 6x12 is actually hiding things again. So I think there's real value there.
Yeah.
Do you think as a Vanguard player, it's worth let's say he's got 6-3-3 Inceptors, which I think is a pretty normal loadout. 6 and 3 Plasma and then 3 Bolt. Do you think it's worth spending the 3 Bolt to go pick up one of those squads of Grots that's out of your backfield, even if it's just to clear out space for future things in later turns?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think 3 Bolter Inceptors in the very corner is a humongous problem for Orcs because they don't have any shooting. So a unit has to turn around and go 20 inches backward to answer them. In fact, here I don't know if I'm more scared of the Bolters, but I think they are about as scary as the Plasma here because basically anything kills Orcs as soon as they're out of their transports. But the Bolters pick up the Gretchen in such a hurry that I'm really just hoping that in my tidal wave of pressure on turn 2 or 3, whenever I see an opening, he feels the need to allocate his Bolter Inceptors to kill stuff, which will allow my Gretchen to just chill back there for another turn or two.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think this is a fantastic matchup, but depending on opponent experience into pressure and especially into Orcs, I feel like this is definitely winnable, but I think it is slightly in the Vanguard's favor. And most of that, I don't think it's because they have AOC. I think most of that is because they have the runaway strat. I think that used properly, that is just such a problem for Orcs to deal with when they don't have any shooting. But if you can pick up the scouts early, then it's all good.
Makes sense to me. Very cool.
Shall we move on?
Let's do it, brother.
Tyler, you're playing against Eldar.
Ah, shit.
You're pulling your Tyranids. And you're playing on Purge the Foe, which is hold 1, hold more, kill 1, kill more. Your favorite mission with Tyranids, I know. Chilling Rain on Sweeping Engagement. So like I said, we're going to pivot here now that we've each done one on GW terrain. We're going to think now about playing on WTC in a teams format. So you're playing on the team, and you get your matchup, and you're playing against Eldar, let's say Yin Karn, 3 Spinner, 10 Warp Spiders, slew of normal characters, and a couple other trash units like Hawks and that kind of thing. You're playing on hold 1, hold more, kill 1, kill more. Oh, and the Wraith Guard. And you're playing on Purge the Foe, Chilling Rain, Sweeping Engagement. And the terrain you have here is the terrain you're getting. So, talk to us about this matchup. What does this look like for Tyranids?
First of all, I'm finding my pairings coach, and I'm physically assaulting him because fuck you. This is terrible. Okay.
It's all right, dude. We just need a few points. It's all right. You got this. All right.
Okay. Sure, dude. Okay.
Someone had to take the Eldar, dude. It's okay.
Why is it Purge the Foe?
Because it's your favorite mission.
It's not.
It's the best mission.
All right. So the first thing about Eldar is that I hate Night Spinners because they kill Biovores. But the second thing about this situation is that I don't want to spawn Spore Mines anyway because that makes Purge the Foe too easy. So go ahead, kill my Biovore. See if I care. So, solve one problem with another, I suppose. I won't score primary or secondary. Okay. Okay. Oh, fuck. All right. So Eldar are I assume these midfield objectives are not holdable from behind those little L's there.
They are. They are
They are
holdable.
holdable?
Yeah.
Okay. Great. That helps. Okay. So we're losing this game. We just are. That's what's happening here. And we're focusing here on how to keep this differential as close as possible, which means that all I am trying to do here is deny. Yeah. So we're strat reserving the Biovore, which I hate, but it means that he gets a turn of showing up and putting a Spore Mine in the perfect position. We probably... Oh, man. Can I afford to start the 20 Gargs on the table? I think I have to.
I mean, didn't we determine that the Night Spinners don't kill them?
No, but the thing that I'm scared of is them killing enough of them that they then fail their Battle Shock, even though it is 3 dice for Leadership 8.
And then they can't come back.
Because that's a game-ending situation. I think I gotta risk it for the biscuit, though. We gotta go.
The thing is, if you go first, what are they doing?
Keeping the Wraith Guard off of the objectives.
Because he wants to do the cram all the Wraith Guard on the physical space.
Yeah. Sorry, did you say Avatar or no Avatar here?
We've got Yinkarn. Or, which one is easier for you to deal with? We'll do that. Probably Kane?
Fuck them both. Probably Kane. Yeah, so let's say it's Kane, sure. Yeah, no, an Incarn is really bad. This is bad. So we're trying to control the Wraith Guard's movement. We're trying to control Kane's movement to make sure that we keep them off the objectives. Because I'm not going to score points, that's fine, but you're not allowed to score points either. Obviously, having that little area where I can actually pretend to hold an objective with a Neurolictor is really nice. Honestly, I would consider putting both of my Neurolictors over there. At the very least, Deathy's over there for sure, because we got to pretend to hold some amount of primary here. Actually, wait. We're playing Purge the Foe.
Yep.
Okay. Never mind. Take it back a step. Purge the Foe, I'm never getting hold more. That's literally just not happening, right? Unless it's bottom 5. Maybe I can get it like top 2 if I go first and put guys on all 3 and lock them out. But like, that's not real. So I don't actually want to hold any of the midfield objectives ever in this matchup. As weird as that sounds. I just want to make sure that every single turn I keep my opponent off of every single one of those objectives. Or at the very least, I'm able to grab 2 of them so that he's not getting hold more. Yeah, so we're going to drain his primary all the way. The hard part is that I need to kill every single turn. That's really important for this mission, to get your kills, and to not burn your units quite that quickly.
The thing I was thinking about here was, how ballsy can you be with the Exocrines? Because usually Eldar have very little direct shooting other than Wraith Guard, and that unit, especially on WTC terrain, is very plan-aroundable, right? They Phantasm 7, they walk 6, and they shoot you at 18. That is a fair amount of movement, but like, you can establish where they're going to be and stay out of the line of sight.
Also, all of it is gargoyleable. Like,
yeah.
None of that matters if there's gargoyles in front of them. They are there. So the Exocrines can be very ballsy. You're totally right.
I was thinking, like, on the far left, on the far right, one kind of in the middle left, and they just kind of like tromp around, staying away from Kane and the Wraith Guard, and just shoot at aspect warriors and characters and make his life hell to try to hide from you.
Yeah. My initial suggestion was, I'm going to focus really hard on that bottom right objective. That's wrong. I'm going to focus really hard on the top left objective.
I think so too.
Because I cannot let like a brick of Wraith Guard be chilling behind that ruin. Like, that's really bad. My instinct is to put the 20 gargoyle. Well, obviously I outdrop him significantly. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count his drops, and I'm going to make sure that I outdrop him so that I can put the 20 gargoyles either in that blue ruin or the sort of middle top-ish ruin as is appropriate based on where the Wraith Guard go. Because the Wraith Guard are going to pick one flank or the other, and I need to block that off. If they pick the middle, I'll take the Blue Ruin. Because 3 stories is glorious for this list. If he's smart, he'll put the Wraith Guard on one side and Kane on the other. How good are Exocrine at shooting Wraith Guard?
They're pretty good. 8-3-3 matches up well into 7 T7 with 2 up armor.
Yeah, with 3 wounds.
And a lot of people are cutting fortune as well, so you'll be winning them on 3s.
That'd be saucy. Their lead's 6, but like that's a failable leadership.
Mm-hmm. The thing is, they will shoot when you're done. Once per shooting phase, when you shoot them, they will shoot you. So they might like mess with your They might mess with your gargoyle screen. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, because they can shoot anybody. Yeah. Totally.
It's just something to keep in mind. But I feel like that's plan aroundable because it's only 10 shots at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think, and it won't be 10 shots because some of them will be dead.
True.
Interesting. I wonder if I actually position all of my Exocrine toward that bottom right and middle objective. Like put one just to the left of the Blue Ruin, one between the Blue Ruin and the bottom ruin, and one like behind the bottom ruin.
And just the firing angles there are the best?
Yeah, just all the guns are pointed at this one. You can't hold this one from behind a wall, and the guns can also pivot to the midfield pretty comfortably. You can't hide on that one, and then I'm just going to throw bodies at the top. I'm going to reserve more than I usually would in this matchup. I'm going to reserve I'll probably reserve an extra 20 gaunts. And I'll probably reserve both of the 10-man gargoyle squads because I want to threaten the deep striking onto objectives everywhere all the time. I really like the Exocrine between those 2 objectives on the bottom there because that firing lane up the sort of, directly up and down on the sort of middle right there is really wide. And an Exocrine sticking his ass through there can cover a lot of that home field objective. And if I can scare an Eldar player into stepping off of that and just keeping something behind the wall, gargoyles get really scary. I'm going to be gargoyle ingressing a lot in this matchup where applicable. Yeah. That's a massive play. But yeah, we're gonna take tactical because we're taking tactical. Stop. You're memeing if you think we're taking fixed here against Night Spinners. I'm not gonna have a Biovore for very long. We're going to try to rack up our secondary. We're going to try to hold down their primary. We're going to pray that we're going second. Pray so hard that we're going second. And we are going to do what we can here. I have this down as a loss, but I don't think I'm getting 20'd here. I'm going to shoot for like a 7, I think is a realistic thing that I could go for here. And if some things flip in my favor, it could be better than that. But fundamentally, Eldar are not a great matchup, but they're a playable matchup. On Purge the Foe, it's just really bad. I don't get to kill any units that they haven't decided I'm allowed to kill yet, and that doesn't work the other way.
Right.
Eldar get to you. So it's bad, but it's doable. We're going to focus our guns on the objectives that we can shoot at. We're going to focus bodies on the objectives that we can't. Deny primary, score secondary, hope for the best.
Sounds like a plan. Nice. Nick, you ready for your matchup?
No, I'm ready, dude. Let's see. Is it going to be something fun?
Pressure V2, baby.
Oh boy.
We let Lucas pick these.
I mean, they're genuinely interesting. It's a lot more interesting than, hey, what about the matchup you win 9 out of 10 times?
Yeah, if I picked easy matchups, it'd be a boring episode.
Why can't I
exactly
play on this table?
Because that one was easy for you.
This table.
See, the pairings coach was like, "Hey, dude, you get a good table for them." Let me take a look at this real quick. All right. So, what flavor of worldies we're playing against? What's the standard shit these days?
I don't know if people are running Angron on the WTC tables, so I'll just say Angron because I don't know what a world leader list looks like without him. So Angron, 9 Exalted, 3 Normal 8 Bound, 15 to 20 Berserkers, 3 or 4 characters, 10 Jackals, 1 or 2 rhinos.
Yeah. Well, on the WTC tables, it'd be 18 Exalted, 8-bound Rhinos, right? But
Sure, for playing in Clownville, for sure.
did they go back on that? Anyways, yeah. All right, so it's not 150 Jackals. Good to know.
I mean, that would be pretty funny for you.
Because that's a very different.
You would take
different
a fat
matchup.
shit on that archetype. Jesus. Grenade launcher, go burr.
Okay. Yeah, again, this is like the Necron matchup where they are going to put very high pressure on me. They are going to come running at me. They're going to be threatening. Also somewhat light on the ground, although they definitely have a lot more units than the Krons. The Krons was like 5 units, right? Like 3 Wraiths, Transcendent, and like Nightbringer, and the Transcendent's kind of like at killing cars. Here it is big Zerker squad with the Mo, little Zerker squad with Karn, Exalted, and then what is it, normal with Lord Invo?
Yeah, usually they don't even attach them, though. The 2 lords will just be on their own.
Gotcha. So, like, that's 4 really hitty squads that most certainly can kill Sagittars when they charge them. They're not going to cover... Well, they're running what? You said 9 Exalted, so 6 and a 3 or 3x3s?
6 and a 3, usually.
Yeah. So, like, it'll be less ground coverage. Like, the raid's whole goal is to come in and charge, tag as much as possible, like, spread out. This is going to probably, like, walk in, wall up something, and then try to tag as much as possible before it dies, sort of thing. I've played this matchup 1 or 2 times. Not with Angron, though, so, like, more stuff on the ground. And what I learned was I kind of got lulled into like fighting them, if that makes sense. Like they ran up to me and then just like waited behind the walls, and they're like, we're gonna sit on the objectives and just pass to you. And so like I walked up to fight them, got countercharged, tried to hit back with my pressure, failed. So it's kind of like they forced me to spring the trap, didn't work out super well. I think for this board, it's pretty decent, especially what priority targets. Gosh, I'm trying to remember exactly which that one is.
That's the one where you score 5 and 10, but then you also both players score at the very end of the game.
You score the insane amount, yeah.
So again, that I think is the key to this, to talking about this matchup, right? Like usually world leaders are a big get up in your face, deny your points kind of faction, but they run out of steam by like turn 4 or 5. And I'm wondering how that kind of factors into your plan for how to deal with this here.
Yeah, because unfortunately, I think with that, they can just like keep something on the backfield, screen out their backfield, and then march something over to that, like assuming they're in the top right? March something over to that bottom right ruin and just chill there. Like, I don't think there's much I can send into that ruin to like pull them out. Like it's going to be really hard for me to drop Hearthguard in and shoot them in there. There's like not really shooting angles into that ruin. Like there's behind them, but they've had that screened out, and there's like a little tiny angle there in the front, but they probably have that like screened out by a rhino or something. And whatever I do send up there to fight them is just like another slingshot target for them to get into my DZ. And if they get into my DZ like for free, like
Internet machine broke.
Oh no. Yeah. If they get into his DZ, man, it's over.
It's over. Just disconnects. Oh man. Well, hopefully our boy reconnects soon.
Nick says his computer just blue screened.
Oh. Well, that's not fantastic.
So yeah, he'll be back in a while, hopefully. In the meantime, you want to move on to your last matchup here?
Sure. I mean,
sweet.
We can come back and talk about that later if Nick's just straight up not going to be back. I'm sure we'll cobble together some stuff to say.
Yeah.
Yikes,
so it looks
dude.
like Lucas For his final matchup, Lucas gets to pick his actual favorite mission on his favorite. This is Lucas picking his favorites over here against one of his favorite opponents. So we got Lucas's Chaos Knights going up against Death Guard. We're playing on Vital Ground, so only 4 objectives. Screw a center. Who needs it? Chilling Rain because Lucas hates fun. And we're doing Crucible of Battle. Better known as Bomber Mission. Better known as I Can't Believe It's Not Dawn of War. Better known as the normal one. We got a pretty standard looking medium table here with inward facing L's on the center. What's your Chaos Knight build right now, Lucas?
For teams, I'd probably be playing 6 Brigands, 4 Nurglings, Blue Scribes. Stalker, 5 Brigands, 6 Carnivores, 4 Nurglings, and Blue Scribes.
For sure.
And then for Death Guard, think like Liam VSL, 3 Brigand, 3 PVC, 3 loaded Rhinos with characters, yada yada yada.
Yeah, Nurglings, the whole 9 yards. Sweet. So what are we trying to do here?
So I've kind of felt this way for a while, but I don't. First things first. Look at this art of that Plague Marine. That's actually Heresy era scheme. But I just randomly discovered this picture. And I think it's super sick. I love that dude. Anyway, cool art aside, I think this is not a great matchup for CK for a couple of reasons. I don't think it's like fundamentally bad, but I think it is sketchier than people would give it credit for a couple of reasons. The first is there's just a lot of lethal hits, and lethal hits combined with a T10 army that can oftentimes wants to stat check people is a bad combination for the T10 army. And the other one is the -1 weapon skill ballistic skill, especially on these denser WTC tables, is going to be in effect for the vast majority of the game. It really hurts Carnivores, and to a lesser extent it hurts Brigands, but moving from hitting on 2s to hitting on 3s removes, like, kind of counters the essential part of what makes CK so strong, which is the reliability of their hit and wound rolls. So that's very rough. In addition, I think Vital Ground is rough. CK really have the mobility and the range to kind of engage on any of the midfield objectives. When you remove the middle one, it's much easier for Death Guard to just, maybe keep their PBCs back to screen, but then commit all of the Plague Marines and Brigands onto the 2 objectives. It's a much more concentrated place for the fighting to occur, which means the contagions are going to be in effect for more of the game. It's going to be harder for me to bring all my guns to bear because there's just going to be a couple angles where he's hiding, so it's going to be more challenging for me to really engage him the way I want to. There's just a whole bunch of stuff that's rough here. That being said, I feel like the Death Guard, the big advantage that CK has against Death Guard, we talked a lot. I've just espoused all the reasons why Death Guard are strong. The big advantage that CK have is that the Death Guard have to make a choice in their boom. The Death Guard have to make a choice in their movement phase of, do they want to try to contest my objective, or are they going to try to rely on their somewhat sketchy shooting phase to kill a War Dog? And what I mean is, let's just say I throw a Stalker onto an objective. I'm going to say, well, your army is relatively slow and ponderous. Are you going to be able to bring enough guns to bear to kill this War Dog? Otherwise, I'm going to get 5 primary points. And obviously on Vital Ground, that's really rough because you want to try to hold your opponents 2s in their home field. And the Death Guard player has to either say, well, I have to get 10 Plague Marines out to get the guaranteed kill, or I take the somewhat risky chance that my 2 Plague Burst Crawlers and 1 long-range Melta kills this War Dog. And if it doesn't, then all of a sudden the CK get the points. It's very hard to contest the objectives as Death Guard because they have these 3 Plague Marine units, 3 Brigands, and that's it. That's basically all their contestable meat that they can use to actually run onto the objectives. So what I'm going to do here is play it slowly, take the early game to kind of mortar away their Nurglings. That's on turn 1 or 2. And then hopefully by the time turn 2 rolls around, they feel enough pressure to start actually denying my primary. and committing real resources running onto those objectives so I can start picking them up. Because once they're in the open, the Plague Marines will die like that to Brigands. And the Carnivores will kill any of the tanks. Obviously, Carnivores are really good into Brigands. They're very good at punching War Dog equivalents. They're great at can opening Rhinos. And actually, now that I think about it, they're just as good. They're just slightly worse at killing PVCs. But any of those tanks will almost certainly die to a Carnivore. So it's really just a matter of trying to get the trickle of resources going, because if we just trade 1 for 1, I'm actually going to be in the advantage of the CK player, because I lose a War Dog, he loses a squad of Plague Marines. That's a sixth of his like mid-board brawlers, whereas that's 12 of my mid-board brawlers, because I've got 12 War Dogs. So it's just a matter of trying to play that slow trickle game, and hopefully the PVCs don't pop off and randomly knock out a War Dog where they shouldn't. If I were to, on this table, give a prediction to my coach of how this game would go, I would personally say that it would be I think it's a tie. I would say it's purple. It has a little bit of a flippy element because I would really prefer going first here. I don't think either of us are going to have enough. Either of us are going to have enough material by the end game to really make a big primary swing, because we're going to just be brawling so much over these objectives. So I don't really think the end game primary is going to matter. I would much rather have the tempo advantage of being able to move on the objectives and force an opponent's response first. And that's where I'm at. I wouldn't try to do anything fancy here. I would honestly probably go with Bring It Down. I would take Bring It Down for sure. And then the question is if I take Assassinate, because they have 5 characters, all of which hide in the Plague Marine squads. I mean, the Plague Marine squads need to die, and once they're in the open, they will die very quickly. But taking Bring It Down and Assassinate is a big commitment. Taking Homer is also not fantastic here, because while there's nothing in the center of the table, it's also very much in the open. So it is sacrificing a squad every single turn to get that. That being said, my Nurglings don't really have a home here. They're not very good against enemy Death Guard. So I could just throw my Nurglings into the mid board over and over and over again. And especially once he starts running out of screens, it'll be easy to drop maybe a squad into his backfield or something like that. So I would honestly consider Bring It Down homers here. But I don't think tactical is the play. I don't have the activations to waste doing objectives. I don't want to draw the wrong cards on the wrong turn. I think that's a little bit too high variance. The Bring It Down points are basically guaranteed. And then Homer, I can probably find a way to cobble together over the course of the game.
I'm surprised you would go Bring It Down Homer over Assassinate Homer. Because I feel to me like those Plague Marines have to come to you, and those tanks are going to be sitting pretty far back trying to get the work done. Oh, he's also got the Rhinos, I guess, but like...
Yeah, the Rhinos. There's 9 vehicles, right?
Yeah.
So if I can kill...
Rhinos, 3. Mm-hmm.
If I can kill 6 of them, I get 18 points. If I can kill 7, I'll get the max 20. If I even kill half of his vehicles, I'll get a 15. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I would go Bring It Down here...
2 Plague Marine squads, you get a 16.
That's true. I guess, yeah. Maybe I think my rationale here might be that it's easier for him to deny Assassinate than Bring It Down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of a reason he wouldn't attach the characters and just like leave. No, he wouldn't leave them in his backfield because then I'll mortar them away. Maybe leave them all in a Rhino, like hiding back there. I think that's stupid. He wouldn't do that. But it's much easier for the Death Guard opponent to try to block Assassinate just by like being, using the... If I take Assassinate, he can play with all his hulls forward and not give up any points. I feel like if I take Bring It Down, there's not a realistic world in which he's denying me from getting a 15 or an 18.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a little bit more of a reliable play to take Bring It Down here.
Okay.
Because, I mean, the PBCs aren't like priority 1, but I'll can open the Rhinos, no problem. And as soon as the Brigands expose themselves, I am counter-briganding them / carnivoring them. Like, those melters are so swingy, they are priority number 1. So, frankly, if I don't kill 2 or probably all 3 of the Brigands, I probably lost the game. And if I don't kill 2 or 3 of the rhinos, then again, I've probably lost the game. So I feel like I'm starting at a floor of 15 to 18 for Bring It Down here.
Okay, for sure. I think the question in my mind was like, if the rhinos get to good positions early and he empties them early, the Plague Marines have to die before the rhinos do.
True.
And I feel like if you're not killing Plague Marines, you're losing a lot harder than if you're not killing rhinos.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I mean, I could go all in and take Assassinate and Bring It Down. And just on turn 3, start pushing and say, I'm going to get some points on this. And you're sure as hell not scoring any points on the primary while I'm doing it. Do you think that's better? On principle, I'm a little bit opposed to taking 2 kill secondaries because I think it gives my opponent a lot more agency. But that being said, like, his whole army is Bring It Down and Assassinate. Like, once the Plague Marines are out there, they will give up Assassinate. Once the holes are exposed, they will give up Bring It Down. There's no way he's going to deny me all of the points, you know what I'm saying? It just means that at the end of the day, the onus is on me to go to him, which is what I really didn't want.
I'm thinking about, like, if you're scoring Bring It Down and Assassinate in a really high capacity, you're obliterating him, right? Like, you've killed everything. You've taken over really strongly. You're really good at standing places. Your primary is really solid. In the flip of that, where shit hits the fan and, like, you are getting pushed, right? Things are going poorly. Your dice are not there. His frickin' brigands are just annihilating you. 2 PBCs killed a dog. Like, it's going terribly. I think that in that world, the Plague Marines are on top of you, and you get to kill them. I don't think
that's
there's a world where
biggest reward.
Yeah. And your homers are still vaguely reliable, whereas, like, I don't see a world in which you're losing badly and the Plague Marines aren't dying. I totally see a world where you're losing badly and the holes aren't dropping.
Fair. So you're in your opinion, or like in your viewpoint, it might be better from a losing perspective to take Assassinate if I expect the matchup could go south.
Yeah, I think it's more a question of what the team needs from you here. If the team says, "Hey, go get him," we need you to go for points. I think you can totally take both of the aggressive ones because Homer's is just going to bleed you a couple points because you're not getting it perfectly. Go for the Assassinate, Bring It Down. And I think if they say, "Hey, hold steady, go get an 8," or a 6 or whatever the team needs, they just want points. I'm going for Assassinate Homers in that world as a very safe floor in terms of points there.
The good news is, like, although he will kill my army very efficiently, and I'm not sure I'm going to have much left by the end of the game, his points proposition is also very scary, right? Like, he probably takes Bring It Down, and then what? Do you take homers? The Nurglings are all going to die as soon as they're on the board. And then you drive a Rhino to the middle. Okay, I'm getting Bring It Down out of that. Also, like, leadership checks constantly. How are you getting primary? Well, if you move on to these objectives, there's probably some tiny corner you're safe, but a dog easily contests that. And there's very decent places for the War Dogs to stage where they're pretty much safe from PBC and Brigand shooting. And that's great for carnivores because that means you want to try to hold primary, you get carnivored. So I think he's not exactly happy about his points proposition either.
Yeah, he's only holding primary by, like, I imagine if I'm playing, it's hard because, like, as the Death Guard player, I really want to hard commit to one flank and say, we're going to set up shop over here, and I'm going to keep you off, and this is going to be mine. But I don't know how he does that without letting you do the same. Like, I don't see how he breaks parity here, one way or the other. I think you're either both holding primary or neither of you are holding primary. And I think the way he wins is by tabling you faster than you table him, so he wants to fight on all fronts.
Yeah. Although maybe if I take something like Assassin, maybe it's... I'm going in a loop here of what secondaries to take.
Yeah.
Because if he does the full commit to one objective thing and I take Bring It Down Homers, or sorry, Bring It Down Assassinate, So... Yeah. Definitely deserves more thought.
He gets to decide that after he knows your secondaries.
That's what I'm saying. Is that if I take the aggressive ones, he could full commit to, say, the top. I would honestly go with the bottom right objective.
Yep, I agree.
And then what am I going to do about that? I'll leave 5 brigands there and say, as soon as you poke your little head out, I'm going to shoot you in the face. And he'll say, okay, I won't move. And then maybe I accumulate like 9 brigands down by the end of the game and kill a character somewhere. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's rough. That being said, once I'm established on the top left, I can make a beeline for his home objective much better than he can make a beeline for mine, right? Because movement 14 as opposed to movement 5. So, there's some trade-offs. Nick, are you back, sir?
I have, ran the subroutines, burnt the incense. I think the computer is returned to life, dude.
Wonderful.
Don't know what that was, but that was, I don't know. As soon as I started talking about World Leaders Tactics, my computer was like, anguish, and just killed itself. So
it was perfect from our perspective because you were like, man, if he ever gets in my DZ, and then went, and you disappeared.
If you're into my DZ, dude, game over. Yeah, so let's kind of pick up where I was saying there. So Prios being an interesting matchup here because like they can play relatively safely because all they can get is 10 primary a turn. So if they're able to wall me off from 2 objectives a turn and threaten me from getting 2 objectives a turn, because like from that bottom right terrain piece, like they're threatening, like all they got to do is roll like +2 move advance and charge, and now they're coming into my DZ next turn, and now they're hitting shit in there. I feel like this is kind of a World Leaders chase the Votann around the board while projecting vast waves of pressure. And it's tough to try to counter that. Knowing that, probably the best bet, because at least like they have no shooting, right? So I don't need to hide, is probably trying to project counter charges with Zerkers. Zerkers are really good at dealing with Exalted Apeon because Exalted Apeon have a 6 at Feel No Pain base. And they can choose to pray for 5 at Feel No Pain. But like if they're trying, like basically, I guess the idea is try to put stuff in such a way that they are incentivized to go for advance and charge and +2 move to come towards me. And then try to like counterpunch with the Zerkers. They probably buy 5 at Feel No Pain, I guess, or +1 to the Feel No Pains. But even then, it's like a bunch of damage 3 getting thrown at them that's hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, because I'm probably going to token the Exalted Apeon because they're the one very threatening thing in the army. After that, I mean, honestly, like that top left objective for me, I think I see where they go. Like if they go first, I think I see where they like send their pressure because they don't have that many units. And wherever they send the most of their army, I send a larger chunk to try to like castle up on that objective. Maybe. Because the other thing too that I'm thinking is if I can take over that top left objective and then start like threatening their home field, like if they don't leave their home field that well defended, now all of a sudden I'm attacking their 5 safe primary. I think that's like a way out of the game. I think that sitting in my DZ with my entire army and waiting for them to send waves after waves after waves of me is a lost condition. Like, I'm cool. I'll get 5 primary a turn. They've taken over the whole board. I think I need to make some sort of breakout play where I'm trying to pull them in and then like deal a devastating blow with Zerkers and Hearthguard. Or I need to try to go around the board and attack their home field.
That was exactly what I thought. Is if you just try to play coy instead of their ranges, they're going to be able to control the board way better than you. So I feel like putting it forward enough that they feel really incentivized to rush in with something real, because at the end of the day, you have way more stuff than them. They've got like 9 units, and you've got 25. As soon as they start committing stuff, you should be able to light it up because World Leaders aren't that tough at the end of the day. And then maybe drop 5 Hearthguard in their backfield. That kills their favorite Acorn Lord. And you can just kind of like play the edges enough while you're repulsing their advance.
Rapid Ingress with the Hearthguard is really good into them because I could Rapid Ingress into the open and they can't do anything about it. All I need to do is just watch out for, I guess, like advance and charge. But like, okay. The big thing here is like, if they're going to come in and charge and kill you in your home field anyways, why not just put it in the midfield where like that's the most open part of this board too. Anything they send out to knock me off the midfield, I get to then respond and shoot. Not saying it's an easy matchup. Like, I'm not saying this is like, oh, we've solved the World Leaders matchup, but I do think that there's I need to greet their aggression with my own, like, Dwarven Fist. I think if I go first too, I can fairly aggressively go towards like whichever one of these objectives they haven't decided to like send a majority of their force towards. Now, if they split their forces, it's pretty interesting. I don't know which objective would be better for me. Something tells me maybe the one that's a little easier for them to castle up on. Trying to like take over that, like if I go first, because like if I go first, I can like still like scout move a bunch of stuff. Right, I can establish positions on these objectives, and now like they have to come to me, or else I'm getting 10 primary a turn. So, yeah.
What feels
Again,
scary is the prospect of pushing into Exalted 8-bound, who have a very good chance of locking you in combat, right? Because the nightmare scenario is they come kill a Sagittar, tag the next one, you fail to 44%, and now you're relying on 5 Berserkers to kill the Exalted, and they have things like Feel No Pains, -1 damage for 2
it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So
it's
yeah. I think it's
like
I guess it's probably
scenario.
more like sending stuff in waves to bait the charges out, making sure that whatever they do charge, they aren't going to be able to like tag another thing. At least with Exalted 8-bound. Yeah.
That's what I feel like the bikers are there for early, because they have such high movement that they can move forward, jump on an objective very far away from your other guys in the open, and just say, you want to come deal with me? You're going to be in the open.
Yeah. It'd be a bummer throwing away, like, if I only had 2 biker squads, it'd be a bummer throwing away one of them, because they are so effective at killing the Berserkers. The Sagittars are, like, really bad at killing Zerkers. Because, like, they kill, like, maybe 2 Zerkers in activation, which is just more upon, like, more blood surges. The bikers are, like, yeah. If I was playing that 6-man bike squad in this matchup, I think that'd be, like, very sick. So, yeah. This would be a tough one. I would definitely put up as a probably, I guess, a what is it, late loss? With
Do you
how
think there's any kind of flip element to this? Like if you're going first, would you say? I mean, it is priority targets, but world leaders tend to run out of stuff by turn 4. Do you think this is like a tie going first, loss going second type of thing?
I mean, we just went over. It's probably slightly better for me going first, but again, because they might knock me off of like the objectives and put me on a 5, like getting that 15 at the end for going second is pretty nice. So
what I'm saying is, I think you might get the 15 going first, because you're gonna have 5 Hearthguard or 5 Hearthkin, maybe 5 Hearthguard on his home field, and then some remnant Sagittar in the top left, where he's gonna have nothing.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably first is better then. I don't think this is like a turning a loss from a win, if I'm going first or something like that. Like goes from a red to a green. I don't think it's that crazy of a flip. But I do think it's like I could probably score a few more round points if I go first.
Sure.
It lets me spread out a lot more. It lets me set up multiple threats. It doesn't let him just like, zoom everything like into one part or like spread out his pressure everywhere, like right off my DC. So, and I mean, like, if Angron's on this too, like Angron being like right off my DZ turn 1 is pretty scary. So, yeah. The nice thing about this, I guess, if I'm playing an Angron, is there aren't really that many great places for Angron to like hide behind a wall and then lance out into my army. Like there is the bottom objective, but like the fact that like there's not like these giant gaps like there is on GW terrain where he can just walk through the plates and hide behind the L. If he wants to hide behind the L's here, he has to like fly over them.
Loses 5 inches of movement.
Yeah. So that is a nice consolation there.
Your army tends to also kill him quickly. The Sagittars are pretty good. No, I don't know. Not like reliable into him, but strength 12, AP 3, +1 to wound is pretty darn good. It could certainly be worse.
And I'm pretty sure that when he revives, he's the same unit. So I think he keeps the tokens when he comes back.
He goes into strategic reserves.
So judging him at the start of the game seems pretty money. I'd say him, probably both the Exalted 8-bound, and then like either a Rhino or maybe like the 10-man Zerker squad.
I'd go with the 10-man Zerks, yeah. That squad tends to not kill things very well, other than character units. So considering you have no character units on the board at the beginning, I think judging them is a sure.
Yeah. I know too that some people were a little confused about this last time. I think when one of our bit reps, I was saying something about judging stuff in transports. It is another one of these annoying things we're talking about, where it is legal. Like GW tournaments have ruled that they are allowing it. WTC, I know in their judge, like they have like an open Discord judge rules questions where you can ask them, and they said that they will be updating it, but they haven't updated their FAQ since October, so it's not in writing, which is pretty annoying. And I think there isn't really anyone who's like specifically disallowed it. It's just not in writing anywhere. It's like a go ask a TO for WTC or go ask a GWTO, and they'll tell you it's perfectly legal. But on paper, it looks like it's illegal because of how transports rule embarked units can't be targeted. So WTC came up with a very interesting explanation for why it's legal. When I emailed GW, they just said, yes, we're allowing it at tournaments, and they wouldn't explain why it worked. So there you go. Your TO may or may not allow this. If they do, yeah, absolutely judge the 10 guys in the transport. If they don't, sure, just judge like the transport or judge the 8-bound squad and like move on. So
Nice, cool. Well, that's fun, boys. We haven't done this in a while, and it's always a fun little segment.
Yeah, absolutely. Sweet. Well, I hope that provides everyone listening with a little bit of insight into a couple of specific matchups, but more than that, an insight into what sort of conversations you need to be having with your teammates, with your friends that you're going to tournaments to. We have this kind of discussion all the time over lunch. If we get our pairings up before round 2, this is the kind of thing it's really helpful to have when you're prepping for an event, thinking about, what are the other big fish in the pond that I'm worried about going into? What are the armies that I haven't played into yet that I want to look out for? And obviously in a team setting, when you're building your matrices, in terms of what your predictions are going to be. These are important conversations to have, and they're a great deal of fun, so I would highly encourage you to go through thought experiments like this with your friends to prepare for doing them in real life. You're prepping to prep, as it were. But yeah, had a fun with that. But I think that's kind of it for our show here. We're going to keep it on the shorter side, only an hour and 45 minutes. Make sure that you're checking out some of the upcoming events we got going on. I know that the Great Game just got added to BCP. I didn't see either of y'all in there. Did you guys get your tickets for that yet?
Who was that?
For Gongai?
Was it added like 2 days ago?
Yeah. Well, no, he's been selling the tickets on. He sells the tickets on his website. You don't buy them through BCP, but he just popped up on BCP. So definitely get your tickets for that. If you're in the Portland area, that should be a fun little GT. Looking forward to the future. We got these really big events coming up in March. We got Rosehammer 2. We got Cascade Clash. Those are both going to be fantastic. If you're a fan of events that take place in the Portland metro area, Rosehammer, baby. If you're a fan of 3-day super majors that don't use player place terrain, what a crazy idea in the United States of America. Check out Cascade Clash. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be super hype in March. Check out Nick's,
let's go! The anniversary champ!
Let's go. Very excited.
Finally built them, dude.
I wish I had my
Helmet or no helmet?
Oh, helmet for sure, dude. All my Hearthguard have helmets.
Let's go.
Wish I had...
Put your helmets on, boys.
Acadian Sergeant. But yeah, very cool. Sweet. So check those events out. We're looking forward to seeing y'all at those. We should be back next week unless there's anything going on that I don't know about. We're going to talk about something else. I don't know. We definitely won't have a slate before then. This might be that will be our last show before I'm in Vegas. So I don't know if maybe we'll do like a little bit of a look ahead and talk about how to get ready for the Las Vegas Open for everyone who is going to be in attendance. I know that's only me on the show, but I know a lot of our listener base is going to be there. So that might be what we talk about. Unless something exciting happens between now and then. Anything else you guys want to shout out or plug or whatnot before we sign off for the week?
Happy New Year.
Yeah, welcome to Season 3.
No, Season 3 starts after Vegas, dude. We have rules, man. Consistency. Anyway.
All right, welcome to almost Season
That being said, thanks so much for joining us. I've been Tyler.
I've been Nick.
I'm Lucas.